Hey everybody, this is Games Plus James and welcome back to another episode of our 2D platformer tutorial in Unity. Now, this episode we're going to look at how your player can get killed and how he can respawn at a checkpoint and setting up that kind of system in the game. So we're going to take care of a few little bits and pieces here first. First of all, our camera on our player, although it's centered on our player, it makes it kind of annoying when you want to click on the player and activate anything. You kind of might accidentally click and see we've activated the camera here. So what I'm going to do is just move it up slightly out of the way, which kind of makes more sense anyway, because then you can see more of the screen above the player. So then when you hit play, it falls to the ground and it's all good. You can see everything perfectly fine, and it just makes it a bit easier when you want to select something on the player or anything like that. So that's sorted out. We also, when we're setting up the level, we copied all these things, and as you can see, as you add more stuff to the game, this whole hierarchy thing here is going to get more jumbled up and more messed. We don't really want that. So rather than having all these ground pieces along here, what we're going to do is we can either right click and create empty here, or game object create empty. Then we'll rename this, click on it to rename it, and we'll call it level layout, for example. So then we click on this, hold shift and select them all and just drag them into there. So now they're out of the way and we don't have to worry too much about them. We can hit this little arrow, then they're all gone. So to do this checkpoint system, obviously we're going to need a bit more terrain and stuff ahead of us. So what we're going to do is we'll just copy this bit here, press Ctrl and D to duplicate it, then hold Ctrl and drag it over there like that. And we'll do the same with this. Ctrl and D, Ctrl and drag, and we got it there. And you hold right click to move this around, and then we'll just duplicate it again and pop it there. So there you go. Now we've got a little bit more level to play around with. We've got a little jumping area here. So we're going to have a checkpoint system, we need the player to get killed by something. Let's just minimize this. So obviously we need to put some danger into the scene. So we'll go back to our art folder that we had in the first episode, click on the image here, then click on sprite editor, and then we'll go over to these spikes. We'll zoom in a little bit, and we're going to drag from the bottom corner and make it the same size as the big box. So you want to make it the same height up along here, and one extra pixel just for the sake of like making it the exact same size is handy. And then we'll call this spikes. So hit apply. You have to make sure you remember to hit apply, or else these changes won't save. It's kind of annoying like that. So now we've got our spikes. We hit the little arrow to open all these. We'll grab the spikes and pop it down on the scene there like that. Now we want this spike to line up to the boxes around us here, because if you try and drag it in place, you can get it close but not quite right. It's kind of annoying. So there's a little trick to help match up everything on your scene in Unity. If you hold V before you click on anything, if you just hold V, then it makes it snap to the corner of things. So keep V held down, then click on that, and then you can just drag it and it'll snap to the corner of other objects. So there we go. So we'll put the spikes there, say. So now we'll have a little hazard for our player. Obviously at the moment it doesn't do anything. So we're going to go to add component here, and we're going to just delete a little bit ahead there. So we go add component and we'll go to physics 2D box collider 2D. And you can see it's created a little green box around the spikes there now, but that's too big, that's too much of an area. So we want this to be a trigger. And what we want to do is, on this size thing, we want to shrink this down so it's a bit more reasonable. You can see it's above the ground there now though, so if you click on if you hold on the Y and drag it side to side or up and down, it increases or decreases the size. So you do that, and then you got that little bit of size. So we want to move it down, so we go to the center one, and on the Y we just move it so we get it in the right place. And that's kind of roughly the right area that we want for the player to hit off of and die. Because we want, if he hits the top of the spikes and somehow magically doesn't hit the rest of it, that's okay. We won't worry too much about that. So that's one basic little spike, but we also want to have some checkpoints. So we'll go game object, create empty, rename this to checkpoint, and where we'll want to roughly start around here, say. So We'll put that there. And well, it doesn't really matter where we put that actually. That's just going to be our first checkpoint. So if we respawn, that's where we'll respawn. We'll actually move the player down a bit as well, because we don't want him falling all the way from the sky every time we start. So we'll hold the V thing, click on the corner, and drag him down to there. So now he's on the ground. Starts off on the ground every time. So go back to our checkpoint, and we want to make this visible, because as you can see, if we're in the scene now we have no idea where that checkpoint is. So go back to checkpoint. We go to this little box thing again that we did for the ground finding element before. And this time, instead of one of these little ones, we'll click on a big one. We'll use the green one for now, sure. And as you can see now, it says checkpoint there, so we know exactly where the checkpoint is, and then we can just click on it anytime we want to do anything. So there we go. So we've got some basic elements into our scene. We're also going to have one other element, which isn't going to, you're not going to see it at any point. So we're just going to create again another game object. Change the name of it to Level Manager. And this is the thing that's going to handle when the player gets killed and when he respawns and all that kind of fun stuff. So there we go. So now we've got everything in the scene that we're going to need for the moment. And we're going to go back to our scripts. We've only got one script so far, but now we're going to add 3 whole entire new scripts that are going to be super easy and not complicated at all. So create C# script, and we're going to call this one Level Manager. And then we'll do the same again. Create C# script. Checkpoint. Come on, catch up, computer. No, see, it didn't accept the typing for some reason, and now we've got this thing here. So you can't actually go and just rename that. This is probably actually a good lesson. You can't just rename this file now. Actually, I still have this on debug from before. Because now, see, it's got here new behavior script. You could rename it and then rename it in there as well, but it's much easier to just delete that one now, because it's just it'll throw up some kind of errors that is just going to confuse you, and there's no need for it. So you just go try again, create C# script, checkpoint. This time I'll actually do it properly, which is nice. And then one more C# script, and what's this one? We'll call this one Kill Player. So there you go. Now we've got 3 little scripts that we're going to make use of. So first of all, we're going to go to the Level Manager, double click this and open it. And we'll actually just open the 3 of them, just so we have them open and they can all be nice and handy. So there we go, we've got our 3 bits. They've all got the exact same bit of script in them at the moment, but we don't need to worry about that. So first thing we want to do here in the Level Manager is we just want to make this, we want to like put an empty, basically empty bit of code here to handle when the player respawns. So we're going to call this public void respawn player. Yeah. So much like we did the jumping in the last one, this is just a function that can be accessed to repeat the same bit of code that we want to use. And also, because it's public, that means it can be accessed by other scripts that have attached a Level Manager object, which we'll go through in a second. It'll become clear. So what we're going to do here, we're going to do a thing called debug.log. And what this will do is whatever text we put in here between some quotation marks, is it'll put it up down on the bottom of the screen here, just so we can see little things that are happening. So we're going to put player respawn here, and this is just to check that this system works as soon as it goes in the game. When you save it, sometimes this convert and keep line ending things will come up. Just say convert and it'll be grand. So that's just the basics of the respawn player thing. The next thing we want to do to try this out is we go to our kill player script, and this is going to be super simple. We're going to do at the very start, we're going to go public, no, not that, public Level Manager, which is the script we just created over here, and it means you can access that in it'll create an object of the same type of script that we just made. It's not too complicated, it's relatively simple. So we call that Level Manager, and then we need to make a variable of that, which is a small letter at the start we'll have there. Hit that. I'm just going to save this because it's going to do the convert thing again. Yeah, there we go. See, because it needed to do the convert thing, this thing didn't get highlighted blue, which is what we want to happen. So there we go. We got our level manager. And then what we'll do at the very start of this script is we'll go level manager. And you want to make sure it picks the small L there, not a capital letter L. Level manager is equal to find objects of type. So what this will do, it'll search for any objects in the scene that have a level manager script attached to it. When we do like this, you know, this bit here, you want to make sure it has capital letter level manager, and then you put 2 brackets there, your semicolon at the end. Yes, so what this whole little bit of code here will go like, so this bit at the start creates just an empty level manager of the type level manager, if that makes sense. And then the first thing the start does is it gets that empty level manager and it finds any objects that are in your scene that have level manager on it, and it goes, okay, so this empty one is now the one that's in the scene. So now we can access that. So what we want to do down here is, oh no, not in here, sorry. We need to make a thing here. We go void on trigger enter 2D. So what this is, this detects when a player enters a trigger zone. And if we cut back into here for a second and we go to our spikes, when we put the box collider on it, we set it to is trigger, so that's how it knows that when you set it as a trigger, it means the player can walk into that zone. Otherwise, if you don't set it as a trigger, we'll just show you that actually. Okay, so we'll just disable that. So now it's not a trigger. So when we move our character over, he can like see he can't walk past it. He can stand on top of it. If I can line it up properly, there we go. You can stand on top of it. But then when we set it to is trigger, then he can fall down